Hi! Today we will go over a concept in Ruby which is the ActiveModel validation or ActiveRecord validation, dependent. And it's something that it's quite nice. And here we have some kind of the guide that will help you to go over if you want to know more. We will see that we always have to include the pattern inside our classes to do stuff. But we will see how we can go over with that and beyond. Say that how we can use it externally. Okay, instead of including it, you will use it as a way to apply some rules on object. Okay, instead of validating the object itself, the object will be validated. Keep watching for the next of the presentation. So, back again, first we have to require the ActiveModel, or if we have already an application that RB that do all the stuff for you, it's quite nice. But simply we will go with what you know. Okay, we will start with what you know. You simply add a tag in your ActiveRecord model, and then you extend the ActiveModel validator, or you include a validation. Okay, well, like I said, have you ever think why you are always including stuff in your class? You are adding more responsibility. If you start from a TDD perspective, you will be forced to deal with something you don't want. Okay, or if you start from a domain point of view instead of the technology, is this will lead you to the same pattern? There are just some questions here that we can handle, answer later on. So okay, let's start with a first section of day-to-day. You are using the include ActiveRecord validation. Then you create a class. Okay, as you do each day, which is your ActiveRecord or any class. It doesn't have to be an ActiveRecord. Okay, you can use the validation as is. You just have to include it in your class, and then you define a property that you will have to do some validation on it. Okay, like a mandatory property, and then you add some kind of validator. Refer to the guide for different kind of validation that you can add. Okay, here is just validating that a presence of a mandatory property. Okay. Well, again, okay, I have to include validation here, and I have to include some kind of validator inside my class. If you are from like C or why are you including some stuff inside? As contrary, you can have your object and apply validation on it instead of the objects validate itself. Okay, we'll go over and we'll see how we can go beyond with this and with this. For instance, let's try it. Okay, I have my instance, then I instantiate it, and then I validate. I just call the valid instance of my valid, and it will use the validate presence to see if the property is there, which is not. Okay, here ruby prg.rb. Okay, my validation is false. Whoops, I have to save. Okay, then the validation told me that yeah, that's fine, it works, and it said that my object is not valid. Then I won't be able to go with to do some more stuff. You will argue that yes, you don't want to code that kind of validation and you want to use Ruby stuff. That's fine. Keep watching. We'll see how we can go over and beyond. So we continue with another example. We will define our custom validator. But first, I forgot to tell you to display here an example. If we have some extra behavior on error, you can think about the ETL pattern, which is extract data, validate. You validate data, you load, and you have three responsibilities. Okay, just think if you want to do this, how you will be able to use the validator pattern. Okay, sometime. Okay, let's move on with the section 2. I will use ActiveRecord validation as a custom validator. Okay, that's fine. I have a class then which I have to extend the ActiveRecord validator. ActiveModel validator. I have to extend it. That's fine. Okay, and then you have to define a method that will receive an object. Okay, which is the object? The clue will come after. Okay, and then here you have access to some behavior. I will just paste my stuff here. Then I have an object which I can access as a certain property on it and do some operation. Okay, and I have already something that is an error. Where does the error come from? Okay, there's nothing in my object that I have, but with the extension, by extending the validator, I will add some validation, some extra behavior. It could be nice, okay, depending on how you think you do stuff. It could be nice. And then you can add error on it. Okay, I will refer to the guide if you want to see more about what you can do with error. Then with that, you just define your class, which will use the external validation, same as the above. You include the validation, you have the mandatory property, and then you use the external validation. Okay? A point here that I discussed with my colleague is you cannot extend, have 2 or 3 extensions like you can do in C or in C#. Okay, or in C#, yes, you have to do some magic, and then you have to do include. It's the way that you can do some kind of hack to include more behavior in your class instead of inheriting. In that case, why are you just not delegating to another component? Okay? But this is not the point here. Okay, so I will do the same as above. Okay, I have defined my instance, and then I want to set a property. Remember, I said I have to validate that the size is bigger than 2, and then I just put a, which is less than 2, and then is it valid? Surely not. And then it will print my error, which it will be the string is too small. Let's see if it works. Yes, the section 2 with an external, it says that the string is too small. Okay. Keep watching. We are going through the beyond. Okay, well, then here again some question. We can use can we use the validation outside the box? Okay, can we pass on an object to be validated instead? Okay, can we use the D of solid, which is inversion, dependency inversion? Okay, as we just did, we have to create an external validator. Okay, that's fine. We will receive an object. Okay, we know how to do that, but how we can push an object inside? What is the object here? Okay, it's the framework who push the object inside. How we can do it? How can we have a control on that? I think we can do is if we refer to C or some C# also, we can define some kind of structure, struct, which is not a concept in Ruby. Okay, we have a simple object with some properties. on which we will able to apply validator. It's not the object that will validate itself, but we will have a process that validate some kind of object. Okay, just think about that. Is the object that validate itself and then do more stuff, or we can apply some validation on some kind of object, keeping the object simple, straightforward, just being like a record in the database with fields. Okay? We want to apply some business rules on that. By example, you give an object to a chain of responsibility and you want to know if it passes or not. Okay? Then you create an object, and then by applying some rules on it, it will give you an answer, true or false, yes it goes or not. Okay? But we want to validate the object with the validator without including the validation and without adding more and more unwanted behavior. Okay? So, to do this, we can just add an extra object which will have the extra behavior. Okay, that's fine. We have the simple class here, struct, which only contains properties, and the another object will have the responsibility of validating the object to validate. Okay, so we can just push the struct inside and then apply validation. At some point, we can call it a container object. Okay, it's a container having properties. Okay, let's say we have an external validation object. It includes validation, we have no choice. Then we have one property, which is the object to validate. It's an object, it's no more a property. It's a property, but it's inside, it will be an object. And then we can add some kind of validator we just defined. And then here's the magic. As we just seen before, we have to create the validator. Okay, we just extend the base ActiveModel validator. Okay, we have to define the validate method, and we will receive an object. But remember, we will push something that is an object to validate, which is the my simple object. Okay, what we have to do here. Okay, the object is the object to validate, but then an object dot object to validate. I will access my object to validate. Then straightforward, an object which contains my object to validate. Okay, then I access my object like encapsulation, and then I access the property. And following the same, I have to put a name here. Following the same pattern, I will have to add an error if it fails or not. But I'm not polluting the main object, the main struct that's just containing properties with some kind of errors, some I keep it simple and straightforward. Okay, and no more unwanted behavior. Remember, it's just a simple object. I apply validation on it. Okay, and to make sure it works, I have to put it before here. That's it. Okay, I have my validation object. How we assemble all of those things. Okay, I have to create my symbol object, okay, which is just a container of properties. I will set a property in it. Okay, a mandatory property, next to all too small. Remember, if my validation must be if it's less than 30 character, then it failed. Okay, Still remembering? Whoops. Still remember, we don't want to add an extra behavior. You just want to use like it a C struct. And no more, no less, no extra behavior. Then we have to add create or extra external validator object. And then in this one, we have an attribute or a property, which is the object itself to be validated. Then we set the object to validate to the object to validate. And then we start the validation and we print some error. Okay? It's straightforward. Yes, we have to think a little bit outside the box. We add one extra layer, but it allows us to be stoppable and flexible. Okay? It will make your validator reusable. If we think about dry in Ruby, this is a kind of dry we can do. Okay, we can reuse. At some point, you will have to have the same naming of property. Okay, but you can do some magic. You can force if you have to validate date, by example, then you can apply some validation on date. Instead, you will have to configure each validator to validate each name of date. Then you can have a convention. Then date, it's always date UTC if you are a date zone. This remains on you. Okay, so is my instance will be valid? No, because the thing is too small, but this will show you that it works. Okay, just run the code. The validation is valid is false, and the string an external too small is too small with the external object. So here we have seen that we can use the ActiveModel validator or validation beyond the box, outside the box, using some kind of just simple object and apply validation on it instead of having the object that validates itself. Keep watching for a conclusion. So back again for the conclusion. Okay, what we have learned or what we can understand from what we just discussed. Okay, we use the D of solid, which is dependency inversion. Okay, we extracted business rules outside. Okay, to be able to reuse it, as we heard in Ruby, with you have to be dry as much as you can. Okay, we can test rules one by one easily and faster. Okay, we can apply DDD, a TDD on that, test-driven development. Okay, you have to validate something from one thing. You don't have to be worried about the big classes. Okay, we are no more coupled with the model of the object that self-validate. Okay, and we can define complex rules. We can use some repo or some complex code also. Okay, at the end, okay, it's a class. It's a class and it should act as a class. A class should have one responsibility, SRP, should be extendable, OCP. Okay, from Roberts Martin in Clean Code or Clean Arc if you want to know more. And something I like the most is Apollo 13. I don't want to know what it was built for. I want to know what I can do with. Okay, probably you will look at the documentation and you will see that it's not really what the guy told you to do. But what you can do with it, it's probably better. Okay. Another point from me, it's yes, sometimes technology is fine, but without focusing on the right thing, you can easily shoot you in the foot. Okay? So have a nice day, and see you on the next video.